January 31st, 2016, the last day of January. We're going to read Matthew chapter 27. Yesterday we read Matthew chapter 26, where we talked about Jesus is praying, and then also when Judas betrays him and when Peter denied them. So it's a pretty heavy chapter yesterday. So yes, if you didn't watch it, make sure to get a hold of that. It's or at least read it. It's very powerful, and a lot happens in that chapter. Okay, so chapter 27 begins with Judas hanging himself. Early in the morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people made their plans how to have Jesus executed. So they bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with the remorse and returned for 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. I have sinned, he said, for I have betrayed innocent blood. What is it to us? They replied. That's your responsibility. So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. The chief priest picked up the coins and said, "It is against the law to put the treasury since it's blood money." So they decided to use the money to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. That is why it was called the field of the blood to this day. Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. They took the 30 pieces of silver, the price set on him by the people of Israel, and they used them to buy the potter's field as the Lord commanded me. Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked, "Are you the king of Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, "Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?" But Jesus made no reply, not even a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. Now it is the governor's custom as the festival to release the prisoner chosen by the crowd. At the time they had a well-known prisoner. His name was Barabbas, whose name was Jesus Barabbas. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked, "Which one of you want me to release to you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who you call the Messiah?" For he knew it was out of his self-interest that he had handed Jesus over to him. While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him a message, "Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in my dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. "Which of the two of you do you want me to release?" the governor asked. "Barabbas," they answered. "What shall I do then with Jesus, who you call the Messiah?" Pilate asked. They all answered, "Crucify him." "Why, what crime did he commit?" asked Pilate. But they shouted louder, "Crucify him." When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he said. "It is your responsibility." All the people answered, "His blood is on us and our children." Then he released Barabbas to them, but he said Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. Then the governor's soldiers took to the praetorium and gathered the whole company for the soldiers with them. They stripped him and put him in scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. He put a staff in his right hand, and then they knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of Jews," they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him in the head and again. After they mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on. Then they led him away to be crucified. Crucify him. Tomorrow we're going to read Jesus' crucifixion, the death of Jesus, the burial of Jesus, and the guarded tomb. That was very, very intense. The ending of the Gospels are very intense, because you take a look at when Jesus is betrayed by his own people, and it's sad. It's very, 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 very sad. And I think, his silence has a lot to do with him just knowing it was going to happen anyway. So what was the point in saying anything? What was the point in arguing when he knew he was going to die? What was the point of drawing it out any longer, I guess, because he just knew that's what was to fulfill the prophecies. Okay, beyond our asking, more than our hearts can imagine, our minds can comprehend, God's bountiful gifts are ours without an end. We ask for a cupful when the vast sea is ours. We pick small rosebud from the garden of flowers. We reach for the sunbeam, but the sun still abides. We draw one short breath, but there's air on all sides. There's air on all sides. Whatever we ask for falls short of God's giving, for his greatness exceeds every facet of living. And always God's ready, for eager and willing, to pour out his mercy, completely fulfilling all of man's needs for peace, joy, and rest. For God gives his children whatever is best. Just give him a chance to open his treasures, and he'll fill your life with unfathomable pleasures. Pleasures that never grow worn and faded, and leave us depleted, delusioned, and jaded. For God has a storehouse to fill to the brim with all man needs, if we only ask him. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow with the rest of Matthew chapter 27. Just really quick, we read Matthew chapter 27, 1 through 29, and tomorrow we will read 32 through 66, okay? This is the New International Version according to BibleGateway.org. Thank you.